Namaskaram. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Welcome to yet another session of VEDHI. We are very delighted to present to you Dr.Deepthy Omchery Bhalla. Dr.Deepthy Omchery Bhalla is a rare combination of a singer, dancer, teacher, researcher, and scholar. A gold medalist from the University of Delhi in Carnatic Music, she is a senior professor of Carnatic Music in the Department of Music, Delhi University, and currently the Dean and Head of the department. Dr. Deepthy, over the last 2 decades, along with the able support of her mother, Dr. Leela Omchery, an eminent musicologist and Padma Shri awardee, has been doing intense research on the traditional music of Kerala. The Sangeet Natak Academy has recorded a special documentary of her research choreographies. Dr. Deepthy Omchery has published many works related to dance and music, both in English and Malayalam. Some of her works being The Vanishing Temple Arts of Kerala, Indian Music and Allied Arts, Gleanings in Indian Music, the others being in Malayalam, Abhinaya Sangeetham, കേരളത്തിലെ ലാസ്യരചനകൾ, ഇരൈമാൻ തമ്പിയുടെ സംഗീതരചനകൾ, ചിങ്കാര, to name a few. She has been the coordinator for the National Convention on Manifestations of Lasya in Mohiniattam, a national convention with interactive sessions between gurus of all sampradayas, established performers of all ages by the Sangeet Natak Academy, which happened in New Delhi 2018. Dr. Deepthy Omchery Bhalla has immensely contributed to the field of Mohiniattam and music. She has won many awards and accolades for the same. Make in India Award by Bharat Nirman for the contribution to music and dance in 2018. Nritya Kala Shikhamani awarded by the Karnataka Sangeet Sabha. Nritya Prabodhini Award by Rudraksham Delhi Tamil Sangam. Sangeeta Kovida awarded by Delhi Tamil Sangam. Sangeeta Nritya Visharada Award by the Iraiman Thambi Foundation. Kala Dharpanam for her contribution to the field of Mohiniyattam in Thrissur, Kerala. Lalita Kala Vikshana by Sangeet Samajam in Madurai. The Central Sangeet Natak Academy, a national award by the President of India. Narada Gana Sabha Award. Kerala Sangeet Natak Academy Award. Spik Mekay Samman, Award for Excellence from Sri I.K. Gujarat, the former Prime Minister of India. Mini Screens Award. She is an A-grade artist of the All India Radio, a top-grade artist of Doordarshan in Mohiniyattam, an outstanding category M-panel artist by the ICCR, Ministry of External Affairs, Government of India. It is an absolute honor for VEDHI to present Dr. Deepthy Omchery Bhalla. Namaskaram, welcome to VEDHI. We're very honored to have with us Dr. Deepthy Omchery Bhalla. Deepthy ma'am, welcome to VEDHI. My first question to you is, at what age did you start learning dance and who was your guru?
That's actually a very difficult question because from the day I think I was born, probably my mother knew that I had talent some kind of a talent, because the moment I listened to some music, some song she sang or on the radio, I would start using, my limbs would move automatically. So I really don't know when and how it started. But from what I remember is at the age of 4.5, my mother was my first guru for both music and dance. And she taught me music, classical, started, with Carnatic classical music, Sare Gama, some small little, to sing at Shruti Shuddhama, like that, to sing exactly to the notes that were there in the harmonium. We never started on a tambura, but the music was started, my lessons were started on the harmonium so that I could match my pitch to the harmonium, each chord in the harmonium. as far as my dancing goes, you see, I was born and brought up in an environment. I was born and brought up in Delhi, actually. My parents were the earliest settlers, Malayali settlers in 1952. And Delhi had a handful of Malayalis, but they were all top level bureaucrats, officers, politicians, and that was a complex kind of environment we had. But all you would come together, and there was this theater, there was music, there was Kaikotikali, some kind of a festival would always be celebrated with lot of, with fervor and lot of enthusiasm. So my home, my parents' home, became the hub of theater, drama, and every play that my father would write and direct, my mother would compose songs for them. I would be either singing in a group or I will be dancing with a group of children. So that's how my dance and music all started together when barely I was 4.5 years. Fortunately for me, even though I was born and brought up in Delhi, there was the International Center for Kathakali at that time, which was established way back in 1960s, I think, 59, 60. So, and my parents were very particular that I must not lose touch with the Kerala culture and language. And this came as a blessing for me, because here, when I started learning Kathakali when I was barely 4.5, Guru Punnathur Madhav Panikar, who was one of the first recipient of Sangeet Natak Academy Award, he was my first guru here in Delhi. And I remember he teaching me Paripahi Mamare when I was barely 5. On the stage, I didn't know what I was learning. All I remember was looking at him standing at the wings and showing me all the mudras, and I looking at him and imitating and performing. So those were the days when I was given an environment of Kerala music, Kerala culture, Kerala festivals, Kerala, everything that was connected me to Kerala. Also the fact that my mother was very particular that the 2 months of my vacation should not go wasted. So we would go to Kerala and to my mother's hometown where she was born and brought up, Thiruvattar, Kanyakumari district. So my maternal uncle, Kamura Purushothaman, he was one of the leading playback singers of his times at that time. He was my first guru in light music. So I would learn light music from him. So again, the moment I started learning music and Kathakali, naturally it brought me closer to the Kerala literature, the Kerala poetry, and the Kerala, the kind of customs and traditions that that was happening in the region of Kerala, which my parents ensured was there at my home. And even today, on an Onam day and a Vishu, you will find that my parents, who are 97 and 94, continue to maintain that same tradition. And I too follow the same at my home also. So that is the learning that I had as a young Deepthi. And then, of course, then onwards, I grew up learning 12 years of Kathakali under Punnathur Madhav Panikar Ashan, then Guru Gopinath Ashan. In Delhi, there is a very famous institution of where they used to have Rama Leela. It still continues. So Guru Gopinath was the one who choreographed the entire Rama Leela. And they were artists from Kerala, veteran Ashans from Kerala, who took the role of Parashurama and Ravana. And Keshavan Nambudri Ashan had come. So that again brought me in touch with many of the Ashans who came from time to time as principals of Kathakali Center. After Gopinath Ashan, I had Nandakumar Ashan, then Guru Ramakrishnan Ashan, and also very interestingly, I would say very fortunately for me, the International Center for Kathakali, every 3 years would have principals from Kerala who are veteran Kathakali performers. But they also ensured that veteran artists from Kerala also came to perform in the festivals that they organize. So I had the chance of performing with Kochu Govinda Pillai. He's known to be, he was very famous as a Hamsa Vesham, in Kathakali. Hamsa Vesham in Naladamayanti. He used to do the role of Hamsa, and he was very popular with that. So I had the 2-day festival had me as the Damayanti. My Guru Ramakrishnan was the Nalan, and Kochu Govinda Pillai as the Hamsam. So those were the opportunities I got, though I did not understand anything that I was actually learning, to be very honest. But whatever I imbibed through imitation was enough to ground me to the strong mudras, to the strong presentation of the mudras, the eye expressions, everything. That perfect training that I imbibed, maybe through imitation and with no understanding of what I was doing, is what has carried me forward when I took up Mohiniattam. That greatly helped me, I must say.
Look, you had a very formal training in Kathakali and you had many opportunity to explore Kathakali. So how did that learning of Kathakali help you with your study in Mohiniyattam, and how did that move into a total study of Mohiniyattam on a later stage?
See, you can say to a large extent, Mohiniyattam has a reflection of the Srivesham of Kathakali. In fact, if you read some of the earlier magazines in which there is a mention of Mohiniyattam, sometimes people have also referred that it is a female, Mohiniyattam is a reflection of the female Kathakali form. So it is not very untrue about that, because there are many movements that you find in the Kathakali Srivesham that is being used even in Mohiniyattam today. So when I learned these three Veshams like Pudana Moksham, then, and so on and so forth, many of these Krimira Vadam Lalita, all these items that I learned during my training in Kathakali, they helped me in having a very crystal clarity in my mudra presentation. So when I hold my hand, I cannot use a clumsy way of using a mudra. If it's a mudrakyam, it will be very clear, crystal clear. So Kataka means, it will be I cannot have a clumsy way of approach when I do that. It's all because of the training with these great masters. And you see, but when I grew up, when I entered the college, I had two difficulties in taking Kathakali forward as an artist. One, that in the orchestra I had the limitation of an orchestra. Unlike, Bharatanatyam or other dance forms, you have a lot of there were many mridangists in Delhi. You have veenas, you have flutists, if violinist. If one is not available, you can go to another person. But for Kathakali, there was only one group of artists accompanying artists who were available. So as and when I used to call them for a program, I found that they were already engaged in some other, program, Kathakali center program. So that was a big limitation I experienced. Second, as a dancer, when I came on the stage wearing a Kathakali Vesham, there was one critic, P.V. Subramaniam, Subudu Mama is how we used to call him. All the answers feared him, actually. He was a critic par excellence, I would say, excellent. So he apparently once told my parents that she has a kind of a natural charming face, and she has a figure. Why do you want that to get camouflaged by, the Kathakali Vesham? Let her take up an art form where her facial expressions, her face, the charming face, her body, everything can be seen and appreciated by the spectators, people. So that is when my mother thought that perhaps it's time for me to shift from Kathakali to some other form. But here too, she was very particular that I should not take up any other dance form except something that connected me to Kerala. So fortunately, at that time in Trivandrum, when I was in during my holidays, 2 months holidays, when I was in Trivandrum, Kalyani Amma teacher was taking classes in Trivandrum at that time. I'm talking about 77, 78. That is when I went there, and she was an ardent, she was a voracious reader of any kind of Malayalam book or magazines. That is one great thing about my guru. And she had been reading a lot of literature, articles that was written by my mother on Sopana music and Kerala Sangeetam and all that. So she was an ardent admirer of my mother. So when I approached her and said I wanted to become her Shishya, she immediately agreed to take me under her tutelage. And the first item that she taught me was not Cholkatta or Adavus, anything. She started straight away with Yandahu Vallabha. And she said, because you had learned Kathakali, I want you to see how the Yandavu Vallabha, when you do through Mohiniattam, the expressions are different when you do the same through, say, Kathakali medium, how it differs. I want you to understand that. That was the turning point in my life in understanding what Mohiniyattam was at that time. Because till that time, I did not really understand the facial expressions that went with Mohiniyattam. So when she taught me Yandahu Vallabha, I just got glued to her eyes. Her eyes spoke volumes. And with just her movement of her eyeballs, the way, and her eyelids, the way she could catch upon the essence of that padam is something remarkable. I don't know how far I could justify when I presented it, but that was something that I learned from her. And then, of course, she became ill. I had to go to Tripunitara to her home. I stayed at her daughter Kala Vijayan Chechi's house because it was her house was very close to Kalyankuti Amma's house. And I stayed, and Kala Chechi was extremely homely and very affectionate. And she not only, whatever Kalyani Kutyamma, she taught me some Jatiswarams, and she taught me some Adavus and Cholkatta, the usual, the old traditional, and one Manasi Me Paritabam. These were the traditional items that she was teaching me, and Kala Chechi further improved by teaching me few more padams and all that. So that is how my, training into Mohiniyattam started. But here I would say that I had not really fully understood Mohiniyattam. I was trying to desperately find out what is Mohiniyattam. Till that time, again, because the Padavarnam, the Padams, the Cholkatta, everything had the jatis that the Bharatanatyam had, and not I would say Bharatanatyam, but the Mridangam jatis would have. So Mridangam was the accompanying instrument, and obviously whatever the Mridangam jatis were there is what was being followed in Padavarnams. And similarly, the Padams also, most of the jatis were being followed there also. So I was completely confused. So when I came down to Delhi and gave my first performance, it was a big flop, because there everybody started comparing that whatever I was presenting was very similar to another classical dance form of South India, and that it needed some kind of a change. So that was how my conflict as a performer started. That is when I became the age of 21, 22.
Deepthi ma'am, having a background from a family of Carnatic music, and that too, your mom is Padma Shri Leela Omchery. How has that influenced you in learning Mohiniyattam and her research been in Sopana Sangeetam over the years, and how has that helped you?
Yes, I would say that my having learned Carnatic music from the age of 5, starting from my mother's time, and then I learned from Vidwan Pallavi, Vidwan T.S. Raghavan, and many great stalwarts. I've learned Carnatic music. In fact, when I did my BA, MA, MPhil in music from Delhi University, I had the good opportunity of learning from Sangeeta Kalanidhi, Pallavi Vidwan, T.R. Subramaniam sir. So all these great masters taught me uh, the complete mastery over rhythm, because they used to teach me Nalakalai Pallavi, Ettakalai Pallavi, which I used to sing for my exams. So singing Nalakalai Pallavi and Ettakalai Pallavi is not so easy, and one had to be thoroughly practiced before one attempted. So having learned Carnatic music ragas, having done the mastery over the rhythm, greatly helped me. Plus the fact that my mother, who was at that time doing Sopana Sangeetam, she was working on Sopana Sangeetam, meeting so many stalwart musicians. In fact, my father, who hails from Vakyam, where you have the Kshetra Kala Peetham, I remember I was barely 12 years old, at night when I used to go to my father's home, we used to spend our vacation in Kerala, as I said. So at my father's home at about 9 o'clock, after the Deeparadhana of the temple was over there in Vakyam Kshetra, the temple was closed. The musicians, the Sobana Sangeetam Kuttipadi Sevakar, they would come home at night around 9:30 and sit for hours with my mother discussing on singing Sobana Ragas, Ashtapadis and all that. So that was also very great learning experience from me. So my mother, being an authority on Sopana music, I found, and she also, because of her knowledge of Carnatic music, she could analyze it very scientifically, which the Sopana singers at that time were unable to do that. She could listen to what they were singing, how they were singing, and then and on the basis of that, she analyzed it in a very systematic manner. And then she taught me the same thing. So having learned Carnatic music, having learned Sopana music, I found that I could do a lot by way of choreographies for Mohiniattam, which is what I felt was needed at that time, to move away from a traditional repertoire which contained many of the items that actually were a part. You cannot say it was not traditional, because Swati Tirunals, the Darbar Parampara, gave a kind of a repertoire to Mohiniattam, which was very similar to the Southern Nritya. So there's bound to have a lot of similarities. But to change from there to something, the compositions or the musical forms or genres which belong to the region of Kerala, the music as well as the musical forms which could be incorporated into the Mohiniattam repertoire, and expansion could take place without hindering the essence of that style, without damaging the style. If one could expand, why not? So that is how my research on Sopana music started when I started doing my PhD also. And here I would like to say that I had also a very good opportunity of doing my MPhil dissertation, which was Pada as a dance composition, under T. Shankaran. He's the cousin of the legendary Bharatanatyam exponent T. Bhalla Saraswati. And he used to come whenever he used to come to Delhi, he would stay at our place. And he would teach me a lot of padams in a very traditional manner that, the T. Bala Saraswati, T. Brinda Mukta. His cousins were all T. Brinda Mukta. So whatever he learned from them, he would teach me in the same manner. So I also had that very good opportunity of learning from him. So all these gave me a kind of a overall nurturing of my knowledge with regards to the music as well as the dance of Kerala. So that is how I actually slowly ventured into, having a repertoire which brought me closer to the region of Kerala.
Ma'am, you have a PhD in music. Can you please sing a few lines of your favorite Kriti for viewers?
See, actually, right now, my voice is not in the best form because I've just got up from a severe attack of fever and cough and cold. But my favorite song was Mohiniattam's composition. Adimalarina tanne Krishna Adimalarina tanne Krishna Adimalarina tanne Krishna Adiyanodavalam Krishna Adimalarina tanne Krishna 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 This is a very soothing composition of Tamhi, and a very one of my most favorite compositions in Bukhari, which I learned many years back. And I also had the good opportunity of learning from great masters in Kerala also, like Prabhakara Varma sir, Chertala Varma sir, then Omanaputty teacher. I mean, she's one of the leading Carnatic vocalists. So whenever I came to Kerala for the 2 months, not a single day went wasted. It was always something that I learned and increased my knowledge of everything that I could think of. Similarly, I would here say that the jatis, I thought I couldn't do much in Padavarnams because Padavarnams were expected to have that kind of korve or a jati or whatever. But the new compositions that I introduced in my choreographies, Nritya Prabandham, Ardhanarishwara, then which was set to Guru Chambatalam, which were Raja Vidyadhara Tala. Then in those Prabandhams, I included some of the Vaitaris of the instruments of Kerala. Like I, along with my mother, went to Neeleshwaram. There was Neeleshwara Shankara Maharaj, a great Vidwan of percussion. And we spent a lot of time, one full day in recording what he was basically a Pani Vidwan, temple Pani Vidwan. So whatever I could record, I understood a lot, many things from him. And later on, I went to veteran artists like Kurichikumar Nair, while Arjuna Nrittam, then Kadamanetta Vasudevan Pilla of Padeni, Shankara Marar, who is one of the ace Maddalam players. From all of them, I got certain Vaitaris and I've incorporated into my Nritta Prabandhams, which you'll find in the videos that I have sent you. In that you will find there is a Mudakka Talam. Kinna kitta kitta tarigita jena kitta tam tattangina gina dittangina gina ginna kitta kitta tarigita jena kitta tam tattangina gina dittangina gina tattangina gina dittangina gina dittangina gina tattangina gina dittangina gina dittittai ditta digitatte dittittai ditta digitatte dittittai ditta digitatte dittittai ditta digitatte je channa 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 nam 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 takuntari kitta nam 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 takuntari kitta nam 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 takuntari kitta tom. So these are some of the jatis I incorporated. Similarly, there is this Maipili Tukam. There is a very famous jati which Kurichikumaran I have taught me. In that taga 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 dettiragi taga teri tum tum tari kita taga duri tum kattiru kita tari kita tanjik tum tari kita taga dattattum taginangi dittattum diginangi dattattum taginangi dittattum diginangi tongikkum tirakuta tari kita takudikku takkita takadagadita. So this again I've incorporated in the Kaliya Tandava Lasya Visharada, the fight between Krishna and the Kaliya, I have used this Vaitari into that.
ताण्डवलास्य विशारद मञ्जुल चलन मनोहर श्रीकर कालिय ताण्डवलास्य विशारद मञ्जुल चलन मनोहर श्रीकर कालिय ताण्डवलास्य विशारद मञ्जुल चलन मनोहर श्रीकर कालिय ताण्डवलास्य विशारद धित्तिरगै तकतरि तोम तोम धरि किट तक 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 धित्तिरगै तकतरि तोम तोम धरि किट तक पुरि तोंगर तिरगोडु धरि किट तंजक्कुम तोम धरि किट तक कालिय ताण्डवलास्य विशारद मञ्जुल चलन मनोहर श्रीकर कालिय ताण्डवलास्य विशारद मञ्जुल चलन मनोहर श्रीकर ऋतुयुवती जनमण्डल विशेषालङ्कृत माधव ऋतुयुवती जनमण्डल
In the Pataksharam, before a Mohiniattam commences, how do you start a Mohiniattam? We need to have the percussion musical ensemble to create an environment, which is a must for every classical dance performance to begin. So there I used a Pataksharam in Triputathalam that takki kikkinnakki kinnam takkita tengita takkita kita tengita kita tengita tattengita takatari kita kita takki kikkinnakki kinnam takkita tengita takkita kita tengita kita tengita tattengita takatari kita kita takatum. So this is a Vaitari in Triputathalam, which I have used in expanded it. I mean, it's an Edakya Vaitari. But I try to expand it in such a way that it comes to a kind of some culmination, not just finishes it, incomplete. So, they, tit, they, tit, tit, they, tit, they. That is how the Triputathalam goes, right? Takki kikkinnakki kinnam takkita tengita takkita kita tengita kita tengita tattengita takatari kita kita takatum. Boom, bit, boom, kita taka tak, kita kita ting, kita kita ting, kita tak ting, kita taka tari, kita taka boom, boom, kita taka tak, kita ting, kita kita ting, kita tak ting, kita taka tari, kita taka ting, kita taka tari, kita taka ting, kita taka tari, kita taka tari, kita taka tari, kita taka tari, kita tarikita kita taka tarikita kita taka tarikita 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 ta kuti kuta kutin takita kita taka ta kuti kuta kutin takita kita taka ta kuti kuta kutin takita kita taka ta. So this whole thing, I have expanded it. Now, where do you get a feeling that it is a Mridangam Jati? No. In Mridangam Jati, it is completely different. You know, you have, you know better because you have also been performing. Most of the Bharatanatyam Jatis are all Mridangam Jatis. Now here, when you put this kind of a Vaitari, if you include it, it will not give you an impression that it will sound very different from a Mridangam Jati. Now, this is what I have tried to do. And that is my little humble way of seeing that a repertoire of Mohiniattam retains the essence of Kerala music, at the same time tries to get rid of certain elements which are a part of other dance forms, you know, so that that reflection is not there at all.
Wonderful, ma'am. Ma'am, you have done research in a section known as Vadal Thurapattugal compositions by Kunjikuti Thangachi, which is very, very rare, and you have tried to incorporate that into Mohiniattam. Could you like to throw some light on that?
Yeah, you see, Vadal in 1980, when I started doing my research, PhD research, along with my mother, I remember we had gone to Kalyanikutti Amma teacher, and my mother placed before her all these 6-7 songs that we had, which were very, very beautiful and ideally suited for Mohiniattam. So Kalyanikutti Amma was particularly fascinated by this Vadal Thurapattu. She asked my mother, what is it? Then my mother said, this is Kuttikunji Thangachi's composition, which was a rare composition, and there were 3-4 other such compositions which belong to the same genres. Now, when you say Vadal Thurapattu, it is actually the opening of the door. That is what you understand in Malayalam. Now here, it's a Khandita Nayaka, and the composition is very similar to Javali. But the difference between the Javali and Vadal Thurapattu is, in Javali, the Khandita Nayaka turns away the Lord, the beloved, for having, cheated her, or for having let her down in not coming at the right hour, whatever. So she turns her away. But here, in Vadal Thurapattu, the Nayika, after showing her outburst, accusing the Lord of, everything that she could think of, she turns to him with reproach. She turns to him with an apology, seeking his apology for her outburst. And she tries to say that she was trying to gauge whether the Lord had the same affection towards her as she had for him. Right? So these compositions you find are very, very different from Javalis, though they have that tinge of Javali. Now, for instance, I'll show you. I'll just sing one line. Avale tava ramani avale tava ramani Vaikade pogani avale sukha janani. Vaikade pogani avale sukha janani. Vaikade pogani avale Tavaramani, Tavaramani, Tavaramani. So you say, Avale Tavaramani, oh, go back to her. She's your beloved. No, why have you come here? She's the one who gives you so much of happiness. So why come to me now? Go back to us. So that music setup also, Avale, it is a Atita Graha. It does not even start with Samam. Avale, Tava, Ramani, Vaikade Pogani, Avale, Sudha Janani. வைகாதே போகனி அவளே தவரமணி தவரமணி தவரமணி. So similarly, there's another in the this Kama Komala Kara is again a Vadil Turapata. Of course, it's very high. I can't sing right now in that pitch. There's another song. Vallabhavadil Turakunnillanya. Vallabhavadil Turakunnillanya. Vallabhavadil Turakunnillanya. Illanya. Like that. Then there's Kama Komala Kara. Of course, you'll find it in the YouTube. I have sung that, and right now I can't sing. It's too high a pitch for me to sing at this time.
Thank you, ma'am. But thank you for saying those lines for us. Has this Vadal Thuru particle has it been incorporated into a Mohiniattam repertoire? Or have you used it for your repertoire at any time?
Yes, I have. In fact, my last national program had that Kama, this Avale Tavaramani, and also in Kerala, in the Vailopalli Smaraka, they used to have this Mudra festival. I have performed all these there, including some of the Thyanis that I learned from Trikampuram Krishnamurti Maharaj. He belongs to the lineage of Shatkala Govinda Maharaj, and I had gone to him in Ramamangalam, and I recorded some of the Thyanis, and you should listen. If there is the Kerala Sangeetnada Academy recordings, have his Thyanis recorded. It is beautifully. He has sung it with heart. He may not have learned Carnatic music or any kind of music for that matter, but when he sings to Thyani, that Raga Bhava just comes out as if, he's praying to the God himself. So those Thyanis I have tried to present through my choreographies. Similarly, some Dandakams also I have tried to choreograph and present, like that is Neeral Nenanyu Paridharadharangaludu Poradi Venna Kachabharam. Neeral Nenanyu Paridharadharangaludu Poradi Venna Kachabharam. Like that it goes. That I don't remember the full line. That Dandakam I have tried to choreograph. So these are the compositions, you see, which are already available, were existing in the region of Kerala, but they were not found easily available. And it is thanks to my great efforts and dedicated efforts of my mother, who used to take me along wherever, she went. I would tag along with her. And, Tiruvittar, we used to have, I don't know whether you're aware of it, there were some Amma Veed in Tiruvittar. Tiruvittar is the place of my mother. And apparently, there was an Amma Veed where there was a beautiful woman, Tangachi was there. And, some of the compositions were preserved by these women in the Amma Veed. And my great-grandmother, that means my grandfather, my mother's grandmother, I would say, she knew many of these songs, which my mother imbibed through oral tradition, which my mother in turn taught to me. So this Adi Keshava Nritya Prabandham is all these compositions have been learned by my mother, who taught me all that. So I thought, having learned this, why not choreography them? And when I did the choreography, I found that they gelled with the Mohiniattam. It is not that they fell as a kind of an alien to this whole style. They beautifully blended with them. So, and I think this is the need of the hour today, is that we must understand that if we want to introduce anything new into your style, which you have learned from your great gurus, you are not distorting the style. First of all, you should fully understand, like I fully understood Kalyani Kuti Amma's style, because I used to go there, stay there, and learn from her and watch her. It was just not just learning. I used to watch her, how she used to think when she choreographed something. And I had these videos of her just before she passed away. An year before she passed away, we had recorded some videos, you know. I wanted to say that also. I just remembered, you know, this talakettu that we have. When I learned from Kalyani Kuti Amma, I had this center parting like Bharatanatyam, Southern Nritya I used to have that. And I found that when I was dancing here, I was very uncomfortable. I felt that except for that white dress, there was nothing different in the hairdo. So when I saw that the Mohiniattam Kalamandalam style had this kind of a hairdo on the one side of the bun, on one side of the head, I asked my mother, I said, I would like to use that. I mean, I think that gives a very closer approach to Kerala. Then my mother said, before you undertake that, you must go and talk to Kalyani Kuti Amma. So my mother and I, we went to her, and you know what Kalyani Kuti Amma said? She said that the same question was asked by Shanta Rao. Of course, you are very young, you wouldn't know. These were the great dancers of their times who had learned Mohiniattam. So Shanta Rao was there when Bhalla was trying to revive this art form. And she was also wanting that this kind of a hairdo looked more beautiful and apt for a Mohini than the usual pinnal getter, you know. So when they went to, apparently, this is, I'm quoting from Kalyani Kuti Amma's recording interviews that I and my mother recorded. It is not my version at all. So she said that they went to Krishna Panikara Ashan and they asked this question. Then apparently Ashan told her that the Devadasis who used to have this pinnal ketter and a center parting, because they were Nitya Sumangalis. So this center parting was a kind of a Nitya Sumangali, sign of a Nitya Sumangali, which had on both the side Chandran and Suryan. And to have the Chandran and Suryan, the center parting, which she called as Seemantarekha. She used to call it as a Seemantarekha. And this Seemantarekha divided the Chandran and Suryan for every Devadasi to prostrate before the Shiva. Now Shiva is whom? The three nadis, the Sushmana, Chandra, Surya and Sushmana, these are the three nadis that come. So you know, of course, it's a lengthy thing. I would tell some other time when we have another interview. I would explain how very beautifully she's explained. That was the reason that she decided that the center parting and Surya and Chandra should be there, and this would somehow will not be appropriate for the Seemantarekha to be at the center. So, but when I went to her, just 2 months before she passed away, I went to her one day at her place, and she unfortunately had lost her vision also. And she just groped my hand, and I asked her, teacher, with your permission, can I use this hairdo? Can I change it? She said, I have no objection. It is your choice what you want to do. But if you ask me, I would rather you have the center parting and continue with that. But I will not stop you from doing that also. Secondly, she said, which I still continue to follow even today, is the pure white dress with jari border with only pure gold jewelry. She said no nagai jewelries should be there because when the light fell on those nagai jewelries, they reflected, they sparkled. So immediately that would distract the spectator. So to avoid that distraction of to the spectator, it was essential that we wear simple jewelry made of only gold, and that off-white dress was for the spectator to watch the performance of the dancer and not her glamorous appearance on the stage. So these are some of the things that deeply touched me. And so even today, I have not worked so much on its costume and except on its music part. That is what I continue to do even today.
Thank you, ma'am. So well explained. Initially, Mohiniattam was limited only to Kerala. Mohiniattam, if you see now, it has grown over the decades, and dancers of your generation have opened the door for Mohiniattam to the world. Mohiniattam got an opening into the national and international stages. That is your generation and your contemporaries. The next generation has also immensely contributed and taken it forward with their passion to the art form. A constructive work has been done over these generations. How do you feel about this journey over the decades?
When I learned from Kalyani Kuttiamma and I came to Delhi, and I gave my performance, there was a lot of criticism was there. And as I said that, in fact, I had some reviews like a Mohini who fails to enchant, those were the kind of reviews I had. Or she was doing something which is a poor cousin of another dance form, like these were the kind of comments I used to get. And that is when I started searching for doing something really worthwhile in Mohiniattam rather than giving up the dance form, dancing Mohiniattam totally. My mother said that you must do something to prove them wrong. These people who say these make such comments, you should prove them wrong. And you can do that only when you are doing an honest and sincere work that shows that reflects in your presentation. So she was my actually the backbone of my all my performances, and I revere my mother in that sense. Now here I would say that things have changed over these past few decades because now everybody is trying to, we are all educated, especially your generation. You want to know, you want to seek more uh, uh, answers to many of the queries that come into your mind. And sometimes these answers you are able to get also, sometimes you are not able to get also. But in any case, all of you are doing a very fine job, I must say. And about 2018, in Delhi, there was a 2-day national festival, national seminar on Mohiniattam. This was my primary aim of bringing on the same platform together every guru, both conventional, traditional, as well as those who expanded, went beyond the traditional format. Those gurus, the established dancers, and the next generation who was still trying to understand the dance form. So there were 3 different generations that I brought together in that 2-day seminar, and which went off very well because it was received well by everybody. Because here you will find that all the gurus, all the dancers, all the established learners, everybody, they could come on to the dais and say, look, this is what I learned from my guru. And this is how I have expanded it. So she could convince the audience sitting there that what she expanded was something that was not only her contribution, but was something that gelled with the Mohiniattam dance. Now, this is where I find is the real the success of a style. If you are convinced that what you are contributing is not a wishy-washy thing, but something which is going to be very, very substantial to the dance form, then rest assured this nothing will happen to this style. But if you are just performing for the sake of doing something called as Mohiniattam, there lies the danger of the style to, to not to be just floating. It won't have a grounded, a firm grounded nature. That style will not have. So to avoid that, my plea to all the young generation is try to understand the literature, try to understand the music, try to understand the percussions, try to understand many aspects that can help you in expanding the form, the beautiful form. So that's what I could think of. And I don't know whether you had come there in that seminar, but that was a good beginning, I'm saying, and I'm sure things would go for the better.
Thank you, ma'am. Definitely. You were one of the first few performers who produced CD and digital versions of the art form and documented such works. Was it difficult to do something like that those days, or had you foreseen that digital media will take over than the platform one day? You did this at a time when digital documentation was not at all popular, or it was very not many people did it. What inspired you to do this?
I would say that it's not so much as my inspiration, but it was the grace of God. Because the Sangeet Natak Academy invited me twice to record my research choreographies in 1994, I think, 95, 96, when we were celebrating the Swarna Samaro. I think it was in 96, if I'm not mistaken. The government of India was celebrating all throughout India, all classical dance forms. And in that Swarna Samaro, I was the only Mohiniattam dancer who was given a very major project, a research project, a good budget that was allocated for that project in presenting my research compositions through choreographies, which I presented at that time. And Sangeet Natak Academy documented the whole program of mine, all these choreographies. So it came as a blessing to me that at that time, when I got this grant to do this project in Swarna Samaro, I could directly get it archived into the documentation of Sangeet Natak Academy archives. Similarly, the Invest Multimedia approached me in, I think, 2002. 98 and 2002, I'm not sure of. And they wanted to bring out an album of all Kerala art forms, Nangiyar, Kuthupudi, and Timila, and many Vadyas of Kerala. And they wanted to record me for my Mohiniattam choreographies. So there again, I'm very grateful to this investment multimedia, to which not only recorded my Mohiniattam choreographies, but also recorded the songs. You see, what I sang before you have all been recorded. Now it's all available on the YouTube. Now today, if you ask me to sing all those songs, I won't be in the best of my efforts. I won't be able to sing what I sang 20, 25 years back. So all these have been archived. So that archival has been a great turning point in my life as a researcher, I would say.
Wonderful, ma'am. Because now you see it is the digital platform which takes over the other thing. Of course, we have it's pandemic and people are dependent only on the digital platform. You have toured the temples to study compositions and gather unique pieces of literature from the churus. Your main study of area has been Sopana Sangeetam, or what you call as Abhinaya Sangeetam. What made you choose this particular topic?
As I said, you see, Sopana music, when you say, it is a dramatic form of music. when you say dramatic, I don't say too loud a music, but it's a bhava sangeeta. My mother used to always say that any temple music of Kerala, if you go, whoever is singing Kottipadi Sevakar, he may not have learned Carnatic music, he may not have learned much of music of any kind, but whatever he has learned through from his guru or whoever has taught him, when he sings standing near the sanctum steps, he becomes the personification of a person who connects the bhakta to the Lord. So that outpouring of from his heart, which comes in the form of music, automatically takes a very beautiful melodic form because it is heavily laden with bhava. It is bhava sangeeta. So when you say Bhava Sangeetam, you are not conscious of Shankarabharanam, Chatushruti, Rishabha, or Antara Gandhara, or Shuddha Madhyamam. You are only concerned about how the various notes oscillate. Those gamakas come into being for the best emotional output that is contained in the words that the Kottipadi Sevakar is singing. So that is Sopana music. It is a style where the bhava comes out in the best possible manner. And this is what I tried to learn from my mother. And if you have learned music, bhava sangeeta, your Mohiniattam, it automatically, it shows on the presentation of you as a dancer. Now you see, these are some of the books which I published with my mother, Chinkara Puttupatagal, then Keralathile Lasya Rachanagal. This has compositions which have not only of those Travancore Maharajas, but other composers also, which were not known till this book was published. And we have tried to bring out, of course, CDs of all these compositions. Similarly, this is the Vanishing Temple Arts, which was actually my thesis, which I've tried to bring it out in a book form. Herein you find there are many songs, we don't have the full lyrics of those songs, but they have been given different titles in different, those churuls, those palm leaves and all. Those titles were there in Tamil, of course. And those names and little bit of lyrics that were there have been all given in this particular book that I have tried to bring out. Of course, all with the help of my mother. So these are certain small little contributions that I've tried to bring out through my understanding of Sopana music. So what you were trying to ask me is that Sopana music is nothing but a music which is based only on Bhava Sangeeta. And in Kerala, all Kerala art forms are based on the Bhava, that is mainly, which is Sattvika Bhava. So that Sattvika Bhava is the essence of every dance form of Kerala. And that includes Mohiniattam. And when you talk of Sattvika Bhava, it is essential for you to understand when you present an Abhinaya, when you present a Nritya, when you present a Nritta, you should bring in subtle and restrained movements. Do not make your movements become too bold, too, I would say, Shringara, tending towards the romance. It has to have an element of Shringara, but not to the extent that it goes beyond a certain limitations. Now here again I will say Kalyanikuti Amma, when she taught me Endoho Vallabha, she said, always remember one thing, Deepthi, that you are addressing Lord. So even if you are asking Endoho Innera Mauna Bhava, why are you doing this? What is so great about it? Why should you show this? Even though you are trying to taunt him in some way. Innera Mauna Bhavam, okay. I know that this is all a false way of your showing your being upset with me. So, but she said, when you show that, it should be presented in a very restrained manner because you're addressing a Lord, not a mortal being. So, how do you express to a Lord? How can you express, show bold expressions on your face and too much of movements on your lips or your cheeks or your chin? You cannot do that. Everything has to be subtle and controlled. And to this state, this lesson that I learned from Kalyan Kutiyamman is what I continue to follow.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for explaining it to us. The other thing I would like to know is the new generation learning the art form is very different from your generation. How important it is for the current generation to have a proper knowledge of music and rhythm, especially when it comes from you explaining, it will be very meaningful as you have incorporated many Vaitari and also try to explain how every instrument is important in contributing the steps of a dancer. So we would like to hear that from you.
As I explained, I have mentioned this earlier also, that learning music is a very, very essential part of any dancer, not just Mohiniattam, any dancer. See, if you see a Kathakali dancer, a Kathakali exponent, he knows the Chenda Vaitari, he knows the Maddalam Vaitari, he knows the singer, he knows how the singer is singing, in what the Chengala or the Kulitalam, how they are keeping the beat on the Chengala. He knows each and everything. It's not that he is learning the dance form from his asham. No, he has to learn the playing technique of Chenda. He has to understand the playing technique of Maddalam, the singing technique of the singers who are singing Kathakali. Then only he becomes a Kathakali performer. Like that, for a Mohiniattam dancer, it is not enough for you to just learn an Adavu and a Cholkat, a Padavarnam and Padam, and then start your own, become a dancer overnight. No, it just takes a long, long time for you to establish yourself as a dancer. Now, here I would say it is a lesson for all the youngsters, especially for Mohiniattam, that I don't know whether I want to be open here. That what happens is one learns just one or two items of, one learns Bharatanatyam. Most of the dancers whom I know, who perform Mohiniattam, undergo a thorough training in Bharatanatyam. And when they have learned a thorough training in Bharatanatyam, they learn 2 or 3 items of Mohiniattam, and then they evolve themselves as Mohiniattam gurus and Mohiniattam dancers. Now, this sometimes may be detrimental to the expansion or the development of this style, because there will be a tendency for the style to retain some of the elements that are more closer to the other dance, which, if possible, should be removed. Those elements should be removed. In place of those elements, you should try and include and incorporate elements which are typical to the region of Kerala. Be it be music, be it be the movements, be it be the rhythm or whatever, be it be the abhinaya, whatever it is, you have to incorporate those that is typical to the region. So this is what my observation is. But I don't want to go beyond, because everybody is trying their level best to see how to develop the art form. And I think when 100 people come together to work towards a main goal, one purpose, something eventually will come up. I'm sure that I'm very positive.
Thank you, ma'am. That is wonderful of you to explain it in very simple words. It has been an absolute honor to present you on VEDHI. You have done immense work in music as well as Mohiniattam and contributed to the art form on an international platform. What I could do with you is just a glimpse of what you have done. It is probably a drop out of your ocean. I would sometime in future try to, present something where people can see your contributions in detail. Today, from the team of VEDHI, we are totally thankful to you for your precious time and spending these few minutes with us. I know you are very busy with the university exams in Delhi, but it has been an absolute honor to present you on VEDHI. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was my pleasure too.
Thank you, ma'am. Namaskar.